talking about problem 6 on page 164, and the process of before you do any construction, sketching it out. So I sketched out what I think it's going to look like, and I'm talking about ML being the distance between the two parallel sides. So before I do this, I would actually pretend I'm constructing it. So Jackson, let go of the compass, okay? So M, I would have to go measure off the length MA, but up here there's not an MA. But there's a GR, and GR is the same as MA. So I would put my compass here, and I would just mark off the A. Okay? And Jesse? It did. And then the next thing I would do is I would try to get a perpendicular. So I would get a perpendicular about A. And so I would have to go through that whole process of making a perpendicular segment through A. The reason is, then I can mark off this length, because that length is how far apart the parallel segments are. So I could have done it there, or I could have done it over here. In other words, they call it ML, but it's this distance here, and that distance is going to be the same here, or outside. Does that make sense? So I need to make a perpendicular. So that process I could have done over here by making a circle, and then I would have marked off the little row parts. Then I would have gotten the height and marked that off. So I would have marked off the height of that, which should give me then a place to construct a parallel. So my construction would have a parallel here. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are happening before I even mark off the next side length. So the goal is I have to get a perpendicular, so I can place my parallel segments the distance apart, this distance apart. Then that's all the hard stuff. Then you take your compass and you know that you have the length RA, so you can put your compass at A, and you would just mark off R right there, and then you would connect it, and so then you would have this and you would have this. You could take this length MA and also mark it off either by extending this line, mark it off up here. You put your compass here and mark it off there. And so, you know, of course it's not a great sketch. It looks more like that, right? But I'm going through the process. So in my mind, a lot of times when I take a test, I have something that looks kind of messy like that. But it's giving me the steps, like I know what I need to do now. Do you guys get that? Like, you can't just pick up your compass and do these hard problems if you want to be efficient. Chances are you're going to mess something up if you're like 90% of the population. So my process is going to be mark off GR, which is the same as MA, and then make a perpendicular. That's the process I'm going to use. So even though this is like a rough sketch, it's actually going to be what I use just to kind of keep my thoughts straight. You know, so you might on a test have like a rough sketch on your paper, because when you do that yourself, when you're not just watching, oh, the microphone's down. Moment. Okay, we're doing problem 6 on page 164. When you do that by yourself, when you sketch it out first, your brain has already decided on a plan, and then you're not just trying to do it cold. So I'm going to start with a straight line. And then I'm going to mark off the length GR. So I have to take my compass and put my pin on G. It's also the same length as MA. So get that length, come down here, get that length. This is my M from my picture. It's going to be my A, which is the same length as GR. Now I'm going to make a perpendicular. So again, you can extend this past. Before I do that, I can put a little point here, and I can extend my line. There we go. Past that point and make a perpendicular about M. So I'm going to make a circle around M and make a perpendicular using that circle. So I have to use this intersection point. And use this intersection point. Now I'm going to take a straight line tool and make a perpendicular. It's not going to be part of my final picture, but it is that distance. So make it nice and long. And now I can take my compass and measure the distance between the two parallel lines. So that's this. And I'm going to put my compass here and do that. So that's a lot of steps right there. Questions on what I've done so far? So I have to make another line parallel to MA. And at this point, since I already have a perpendicular, using the alternate interior angles construction to make parallel lines doesn't make sense. What would make more sense is just to do another perpendicular. Luke?
Why do you do the perpendicular bisector?
It's not a bisector, it's just a perpendicular because it tells us in the problem that this distance ML is the distance between the two bases of the parallelogram. And distance is always measured perpendicularly. Okay. So now I have to make a perpendicular about here because I'm going to make a line that goes through this point L that is parallel to MA. So I come over here and I'm just doing another perpendicular. Oops. I have to open my compass wider first so that I get intersection points. So this has a lot of steps. It's a very good test problem. Not a bad partner quiz level problem either. So again, with yours, you can line it up a little bit better, but there we go. So now I know that the bases have to be on the blue and the black one. So far, are we okay? So then, I don't really need this anymore. I'm just going to erase it so you guys don't have that in the way. But now I've got to mark off from M wherever this was G. I have to mark off G from M up on this blue line. So I have to take my compass, and that's the same as RA, the same length. So I have to measure that length. So I have that length here. So I'm going to put my compass on my M. and I'm gonna mark it off up here. And see, unfortunately, my line wasn't long enough, my blue line. That's when you just pick up your straight edge and extend it. So this is my MG, right here, MG. And that same length is AR, so I'm gonna go over to A now. Do the same thing. And so now I have R. So I'm gonna make a parallelogram using that. So I start at M and then go to A and then go to R and then go to G and back to M. There it is. And the distance between the two bases is ML. That's what this is. Okay, Cal?
Okay,